Well, you've just come off the stage, a tour de force. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to pick up on a couple of things
Sure.
you spoke about, because I suppose the tenet of WPP Commerce is about how wonderful technology is.
Right.
You've just come off the stage telling us, actually, there's some warts in all of this.
Yeah. Well, I think there's good and bad in everything. I think what I wanted to communicate today was that we have this way of thinking where we put technology first above everything else, and we don't often think about some of the other things that are going on at the same time. So today's point was simply to demonstrate a little bit of how technology trends set the context for a lot of what technology is able to do, or what technology really should be doing, if you will.
And since now, who do you think should drive what? I mean, you made a very interesting point about actually demographics is going to be a key driver of the world going forward. So who's leading what? Is demographics going to lead what's going on in technology, or is technology in a sense going to help with the demographics?
Well, I think what's always in the lead is what's changing the fastest, because that's going to create the biggest growth opportunities. So technology was moving pretty fast for a long time, and demographics were moving much more slowly for a very long time. What's happened with demographics is that they've crossed a tipping point, and so now everything is happening at once. And, we've got an aging population. We've got people going through life stage transitions at older ages. The world is suddenly becoming more diverse. There are all of these things that are just now happening all at once. And I think that makes technology just a much more powerful macro force right now. The good thing is that it creates a lot of opportunities for technology to do some new things, for technology to move perhaps in some new directions. But I think that context helps us understand technology a little bit better.
You talked a little bit about the aging population of the world from a whole series
People
of different
like me.
dimensions, and people like me. So it's nice to get a shout out at an event like this. But what do technology companies and us as marketeers need to understand about aging demographics and a group of people who are going to be consumers for quite some time?
Well, I think there are a few things going on. So one, I think technology companies have largely been driven by a view of their consumers being a younger consumer. And while that's not untrue, the fastest growing part of the demographic right now is the older demographic. So there's just an opportunity there that technology companies need to pay attention to. Secondly, we just assume that older people aren't facile with technology, they don't like technology, they don't really use technology. And while a lot of that is true, it doesn't mean that there aren't technology opportunities with them. But when we sort of turn that into a judgment about older consumers, then we're just going to miss the opportunity. It's not all about making bigger dials on the screens.
And do you think technology companies are going to be capable of doing that, given how young most people are in a technology company?
Right. Well, I think there's a very interesting example, which is sort of outside the technology company, but there's an age lab at MIT. It's called the Age Lab. It's run by Joe Coughlin. And he has lots of young people that work in the Age Lab, and he has created a few things using technology, actually, that enable them to help generate ideas and stimulate new thinking for a lot of the companies that work with them about ways to address the aging consumer that represents such a big opportunity in the marketplace. So there are some ways to do this.
Of course, there's the Helen Hamlin School at the Royal College of Arts in London.
Right.
And their hypothesis, in a sense, is that if you can design products for an aging population, people with less manual dexterity, actually it's going to be better for everybody.
Yeah, that's right. I think there is that as well. So it's not as if things for older consumers are just for older consumers. In fact, one of the points I just made was technologies that can provide various kinds of social support are not only needed for older consumers, they're needed for younger consumers who are increasingly living in single households. And so the kind of social networks of support that are in place in extended families or nuclear families are not there for older consumers, and they're not there for younger consumers either. So the same kind of sensors, the same kinds of monitoring technologies, the same kind of dashboards from remote locations, all of those kinds of things could be used for both demographics.
Finally, you spoke a little bit about speed and maybe trying to debunk the myth that we're running at a pace we've never run before. But clearly, speed is very important.
Yeah,
it's
of
important
course.
to consumers, and it's very important to marketeers. But what word of caution would you give people who think the only thing that matters is speed?
Well, my biggest caution is don't get less rigorous in what you do because you think you've got to move fast and you'll just make it up as you go along. You trip over yourself a lot when you do that. But I think we do confuse ourselves a little bit about speed. Big changes often seem like they're occurring very fast just because they're very different. And I think sometimes we need to just take a step back and make sure that we're really clear on what's happening around us. And this kind of prevailing narrative about technology, that it is just faster and faster and faster all the time, is probably something we should take a second look at and understand a little bit better if we're really going to get the most out of what we need.
Well, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
One definitely last question.
Sure.
You're here at a sort of a commerce event.
Yeah.
Are you a physical shopper or a virtual shopper, Jay?
So I'm a virtual shopper, but my wife is an omni shopper. So
So between the two of you, even
she's
in all
afraid
out.
to let me out of the house into the store. So that's why I'm stuck online. But
Well, thank you very much. It's been an
thank you
absolute
very
pleasure.
much. Enjoyed it very much. Thank you.